All right, thank you for staying with us. You're watching TVC Breakfast. We just want to bring you some updates that the protest has already begun at Ikeja on the bridge. We have presence of some protesters. That's the picture there on your screen. And heavy security presence also to monitor the activities of protesters, policemen, the military, the LNs, the neighborhood watch, as they are called, are also present. And we see a number of protesters there. We can see them engaging with security personnel, perhaps, trying to understand how they will go about the protest smoothly with the cooperation of both security personnel and the protesters. So I see that that's what the engagement is about, basically. And we can hear some of the protesters already speaking their minds, what their grounds are with government as it is. But we can still see that some persons are going about their businesses. We can see keke napep, as they are called, as tricycles. And some persons are inside of them, moving there. We can also see commercial buses also waiting on the side. Perhaps they could get some customers so they can go about their business as well. All right, let's get back to the business in the studio. The federal government, through the Nigeria Customs Service, has suspended import duties on rice, flour, wheat, and other essential food items to reduce the high cost of food items in the country. This development was announced by the comptroller-general of the Nigeria Customs Service, Adewale Adeniyi, who acknowledged the widespread economic challenges and outlined the federal government's commitment to easing the financial burden on its citizens. Mr. Adeniyi also stated that the Nigeria Customs Service has streamlined export processes to facilitate the efficient movement of Nigerian goods to international markets. He also emphasized that these reforms will provide farmers, artisans, and entrepreneurs with a faster path to global markets, thereby benefiting their families and communities. Joining us in the studio is a food security expert, African farmer Mogaji. Good morning.
Good morning.
For joining us. We also have in the studio the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Bama Farms Limited, Wale Oyekoya. Good morning. It's good to have you. Join us, gentlemen. Let's quickly ask how what it was like on your way to the office. We know today is the beginning of the protest. Was the road free? Did you see any protesters and security presence?
It is extremely free.
The road was free?
99.9% was so free, no police, no cars. In fact, it was very smooth. And I hope it could be like that. I believe by 10 o'clock, a lot of people will be gathering for the show.
We have already seen some persons gathered at Ikeja on the bridge. But at your end, what was it like?
Yeah, very free. I left pretty early. Very minimal police presence. In fact, extremely scanty. And the road was very free. And some people were moving.
Going about
yeah, and at the bus stops because I took the service lane.
Interesting. But let's get back to what the effort of government at addressing some of the grievances put forward by these protesters. The cost of living is one of it, and how affordable items are. And then we have seen now that the Comptroller-General of the Customs has said that they are lifting import duties on some essential items, rice, flour, and all of it. But let's get your reaction to it.
I think it's a welcome idea. And this is what is really bringing out the protest, which everybody has the right to protest. But at the same time, where your own right stop is where some other people begin.
Yes.
And we have to look at our police as our friends, as our family. One way or the other, they are our families. So as we are protesting, and to me, I believe this is the first time we are going to have a listening government where negotiation will be going on with all the ministers, with all the governors. I believe that with the way forward with the federal government that wanted to lift the ban on some of these food items, it's a welcome idea. But at the same time, I believe there should be a time limit so that it doesn't affect the local content. Because The main idea here is that most of this palliative that the federal government is rolling out is not getting to the masses. Let us be realistic. So if 2020 trust of rice, according to the federal government, is being rolled out to some states, and they say for the people that are
poor.
For the poor, who is not poor in Nigeria of nowadays? Everybody is vulnerable. So,
well, there's a social register that I believe that is being used to get across the
all those ones have been abused. Let us be realistic with ourselves. I'm vulnerable. Who is vulnerable? And you can't tell me that you are not vulnerable, because a bag of rice now is about 80 to 100,000 naira. So if I could get a bag of rice, I know it's going to do some magic in my family. But for how long are we going to be getting this handout? And with our populations, all this palliative is not getting to anywhere. Let us believe that.
I believe that's why the people should engage their state government, because the government handed it over to the state government.
You are right.
So the people should engage their
we
state
should
government.
stop blaming. You are right. We should stop putting all the blames on the federal government. Whereas the people that are very close to the grassroots are the governors and the local governments. And with the local government autonomy now, I think there should be more accountability from the local governments. Yes, I believe with the tariff they just lifted with some food items, I think it's going to leave some burdens on the masses.
Okay, let me come to you now, African farmer. Stemming from what he has said, talking about his concern, especially how this could affect local content specifically. Talk to us from that perspective, how this move by the government can be managed in such a way that the local content is not affected at the end of the day.
Well, first and first is I'm not excited about the custom announcement.
Oh, really? Why?
Because the crisis of Nigeria today is hinged on customs. Part of it, yes. So over the years, I'm speaking about 10 years, maybe it will change maybe during this man's administration, but it's the same. Now, it's a welcome idea for us to bring some foods in. But when you hear the word essential, to customs is unending. Now, on paper, you hear essential in agriculture. We've seen over and over, and that's what's still playing. If you're bringing in a few equipments that should, be on the list, you will pay for it. So bottom line is, until they make that list of essential, it may not work. The intentions of government may not be achieved through the sabotage of customs. I have monitored customs in almost 12 years. And when you say bring 10 tons, 100 tons come in. And so even when they say 4 months, 6 months, customs have a way of extending these things. So
these are weighty allegations.
Very weighty.
So do you have?
But I have people. Should I mention names?
To prove all that you have said about the sabotaging efforts.
Should I make mention of names?
Of course, because you have made a weighty
Niji Lucas is a private sector person. When government removed tariff on tractors, and he went to sign agreements, brought in tractors long term. By the time the tractors were landing here, they said they had not gotten an official letter to that effect. There's another young person exporting in coffee business. He has in various African countries. He got an order to export machines. He decided to stop exporting from China to other African countries and to develop it in Nigeria. When he got to the port, paid all duties, what did they ask him? They asked him to go and bring the import duty on the motor, one of the smallest components in the machine, and that until he provides that motor, he will not be able to export. And that thing was down there until...
Do we know if that is part of the operational processes?
No, see, the thing is, they were... Cosmos Madoka also, there's a video online. I still watched it yesterday. See, if it is not well defined, okay, customs would always, some people in customs will always trick it. And that's what we've seen over years. When you allow rice to come in, during President Jonathan's era, when they allow rice to come in, what would normally happen is If they say bring 100, you will find 1,000. And the prices of rice will go down for another 1 year. So the government, it's a welcome idea that government wants to feed the people. It's another thing to monitor the elements, some elements in customs that truncate it. What happens over the time is government makes an announcement. Let me even say this, even tomatoes in the last administration.
Yes.
What happened, Nigeria Agribusiness Group, because I want to mention names to move Nigeria forward. Nigeria Agribusiness Group, I volunteered then, had this program where they spoke with President Oshibajo, Vice President, to increase tariff and ensure that the promoters of tomato purees and co were processing in Nigeria, buying tomatoes, so fertilizer, chemicals, tractors, to create work jobs across the value chain. What happened? When they increased the tariff, when President Oshibajo discovered that a majority, over 90% of the processors were importing concentrates, the increased tariff made it possible such that the processors will be patriotic in Nigeria. What happened? Over a year later, the pronouncement was made, but customs was still allowing tomato paste to come into Nigeria. It was when we now mounted media pressure that they now said, oh, there's a policy that says that any document they get within that comes to them after 90 days, that document null and void. And they did not get back. So at the end of the day, tomato importers were still importing, impoverishing Nigeria and Nigerians. And at the end of the day, they said, it's not our business to go back and tell you that the document got to us late.
Right.
These are gimmicks. And many Nigerians, investors, now had gone, based on that pronouncement, are going to bring in processing equipment. I am saying the government, the federal government will have good intentions. The parastatals under government will truncate. A few will truncate it, and it will affect everybody at the end of the day. This government parastatals, if they don't man and guard them, everything is just pronounced.
How can the government man and guard? You have monitored these processes, these people for 12 years.
Yeah, 12 years.
Pointed out what you have seen the gaps.
Yes.
So how would you want government to address these gaps of monitoring them and ensuring that government's intention achieves the result?
So, digitalization.
Isn't that a long-time thing?
Digitalization is long-term. But on the short term,
right,
what comes in must, if it's food, they should search. Okay? If it's food. So everything, as it's coming in, they should have a monitoring M&E committee. Okay? Who is there that will not compromise and ensure that what the document they gave you, what it was approved for you to bring in, is what you brought in. And so some of those things, okay, let me paint this scenario, okay? And the scenario is, at some point in time, especially the ones that come through the land borders, what happens mostly is that at a certain period in the year, when they know the buses are coming from Abuja, they shut down the illegal operations, okay? After like a week that they've gone for the festival and co, they resume operation. So when you go there and everything is normal. After a week or two, you come back and you see rice and everything coming. Monitoring and evaluation to be sure that what is approved for you is what you bring in.
Right.
We've seen it in corn, we've seen it in soya, we've seen it in everything.
Okay.
It's M&E.
All right. We'll come back to this conversation. We need to quickly go to our correspondent, Sharon Ejason, who is in Ikeja, to bring us up to speed with developments there. Sharon, earlier we saw visuals from Ikeja on the bridge where some civil service organizers as well as some protesters were there, and we saw them engaging security personnel. Talk to us what's going on where you are right now.
Ikeja, Lagos State, Nigeria. It's actually a little busy, not the usual pomp and rush you would always find in Ikeja. But right now, as we speak, we are at the Ikeja under bridge, and I can tell you that we have members of the civil society groups, we have youth, we have people from the socialist group that have gathered here to take off for the End Bad Governance protest. But as you can see, the Nigerian police force are almost matching them up in their numbers and have prevented them from taking off. They're supposed to take off at 7 a.m. under the bridge in Ikeja, but the Nigerian police force was on ground to prevent them from taking off. Perhaps it's because of the instruction given by the court ruling, which states that there are only 2 spots that are approved for people to gather and for them to actually voice out what their demands are to the government.
Now, were you able to speak with either a member of the civil society group on why they decided to come to Ikeja under bridge, knowing that there was a court ruling that there are only 2 venues for this protest?
Well, when I was engaging some of the civil society group members off camera, they said the court ruling came a little bit late because they had already mobilized to gather at the underbridge in Ikeja. And remember, it is the right of every citizen to protest if they want to protest. So perhaps that's why they actually gave it a chance, and they said they remain resolute to continue with this protest despite the prevention by the Nigerian police force.
And how about the police, the psychology of the police as we speak, because they have a responsibility to protect them and ensure they enforce the ruling of the court. How are they trying to engage these people peacefully from what you have seen so far?
Well, from what I can see here in Ikeja, there's been a show of force by the Nigerian police force and the Nigerian army. As we are speaking right now, we can see that the civil society group members are actually singing. They are chanting that they want the government to listen to their demands and they should allow them to carry out the protests, which they tag peaceful. The Nigerian police force, of course, they are there in their numbers, but they've been relatively calm, trying to explain to them that they should go and gather where the government has approved for protests to take place.
So what are they saying then, Sharon, especially saying that with regards to they going ahead with the protest there? Are they saying they would not leave, or that they would move over to the location already designated for them to protest?
Well, there are different groups of people protesting today in Lagos, Nigeria. As I speak to you, there's another group called Defend Lagos that already at Ikeja Lausa Secretariat getting ready to defend Lagos according to what the name of the group states. This particular group has chosen Underbridge Ikeja and they remain resolute to that. Perhaps maybe our correspondent at Ojota will be able to bring us up to speed on if anyone actually complied with the court's order.
Now, let's talk about the people going about their duties. I wonder if you were able to speak with anyone who is not part of those protesting or the civil society group who has decided to just do his own business or carry out his own business. Did you see anyone like that? What are the activities happening around that area?
Well, we know Ikeja to be a community whereby we have a lot of business activities. If you look at the shops here, you would see that the shops are locked. Today is Thursday. Naturally, in Lagos, there is environmental that is actually that people actually comply with. Naturally, in Lagos State, Nigeria, shops opens for businesses at 10 a.m. So right now, as we speak, there's really nothing amiss at the moment. But you would want to recall that yesterday, it was a busy day in Lagos. We had a lot of people at the markets. We had a lot of people at the supermarkets. There was panic buying. We also know that a few days ago, we had a lot of people trying to get enough PMS into their cards and any other facility that might actually need them. So it's averagely okay. This is what a Thursday morning should look like in Lagos. But we actually have to keep up. You actually have to continue to stay with us to get up-to-date analysis of what Lagos, Nigeria is or would be today, now, and to the rest of the day.
Absolutely. We'll keep tabs with you, Sharon, for more details coming out of Ikeja under bridge, where you are monitoring, and also we'll reach out to our other correspondents scattered across the country for developments with regards to the first day of this protest. Thank you, Sharon, for bringing us up to speed. Well, you have it there. We are saying that those protesters are insisting that they want to stay there, although government has said there are designated spots that you have to be. But let's come back to the issue at hand, talking about customs lifting some duties on essential items. And you mentioned earlier the matter of local content. He has raised some concerns. I wonder if you have had experiences with customs on some of the issues he has raised and how you were able to deal with it and the implication for this decision.
Definitely happened to me also when I tried to bring some of these farm equipment from China. I think I brought about 40 food containers, about 3 of them. There was a tariff also way for all this farm equipment that you could bring into the country in order to be able to produce more food. So when I came back, you cannot tell me that the customers are not aware of what the Federal Minister of Finance already told them, that anything on agriculture should be duty-free. So they gave me a headache, but I have to go to the Minister of Finance in Abuja and get a letter and the correspondence that allow me to bring some of this farm equipment. They are all processing equipment. You can see even with the way big, you can see what the contents in the container. They really gave me some tough time, and it takes me almost about 2 months to be able to clear. I have to pay for demurrage, despite all the tariff that was lifted. But I believe that all these things can be changed if there's any proactive order from the federal government to all these agencies, because the federal government will bring out some laws and the agency will be doing other things. So all these things, just like what my colleague have said here, bringing all kind of unwholesome commodities into the country, we affect the local content, no matter how we do it. But with the situation in the country we have right now, with the population that we're having of almost about 250, we have to feed ourselves.
Right.
So that is why the president said, okay, in order for all this problem to be abated, let us bring
issues that have led some Nigerians to the streets this morning, the first day of the protest. And that has to do with the customs lifting a tariff on some essential items. We still have our guests in the studio, African farmer Mogaji and Wale Oyekoya, talking to us about this development. And before we went to the break, you were talking about how it's essential that the government has to ensure that there is a window for this to happen, and after that, it shuts that window because of local content.
Yes.
So speak more on
at the same time, I want the government to look at the time of harvest, because our time of harvest of farmers are coming. So it should not really affect when the farmers are bringing their own goods, because by the time all these foreign goods are coming in, the price might be lower than what the local farmers have already produced. So we have to look at the
and that's avenue. A loss for them.
It's going to be a loss to the farmers. So what I will just advise the federal government is that we have the abundant arable lands. We have capable men that can do this thing. What we need is production, production, production. After production is still production. Because you cannot compare a population of today to about 20 or 30 years ago. And with the population, that is why I keep on saying that it's supposed to be an advantage to us. But we are not taking advantage of the opportunity we have with all the youth.
How are we not taking it?
Because the environment has not been conducive for you to do farming. I give myself as an example. I've been doing farming since I came back from US now for almost about 20 years. And I've been relocated twice by the government. The recent one was in December.
The federal government?
Yeah, I could say state and federal government. The first one was by the state government when they wanted to do airport at the Lekki International Airport. This time around is by the military. The Lagos State government gave us land to do farming. We are almost about 100 farmers that were displaced. And on December 10, the military just came. They said the land belongs to them. They chased away all the farmers. We couldn't even do any harvesting. Since December to this time, we have not been able to see any reasonable government to call us that, we are talking of food security as we are talking about now. And about 100 farmers were being displaced. But because we are all corporate farmers, we couldn't get to the street like all other farmers. But I believe the government are already aware of all these things. Nothing has been done. No compensation, other land.
If you didn't reach out to the government.
We did reach out to the government. We wrote letter to the government. We protested. We wrote petition. We appealed the medias. Yes, they can. They have already said this thing in their executive meeting twice, according to what we heard. But we have not been called. We have not been compensated. Right now, we are floating over 100 farmers. So what I wanted to say is now that now this new regime, they came in. They said all the military land that were fenced, doing nothing with it, that they should release it to the farmers for them to farm. Because the only thing that the government can do is to provide land for people to farm. And at the same time, our research and development keep on saying that most of the seed that we are planting today are not yielding us anything, because most of them are imported. What happened to our research and development? Why can't we develop the seed that we are going to develop in our own climate, in our own environment? Why depend on China?
Give us the kind of yield we
exactly we want. Like if you go to Kenya, you go to Morovia, you go to all of them, they all have their own seed that is good for the environment. You remember in 2003, the Maputo Agreement in Mozambique, that all African nations signed into it, including Nigeria, that 10% of our budget should be given to agriculture. The closest we ever had was during the Obasanjo, and that was about 2.2%. Since that time, 1%, 1.5%. If this thing had been done since 2003, 10% of our budget, we won't be finding ourselves in the problem we have today, because an angry man,
hungry man.
He's a hungry man. That is exactly what is happening.
Yes.
This is exactly what is happening. So what really happened to all the incentive that's supposed to be given to farmers? Farming is very good. I love it. But if the government is not really supporting, and the few people that are doing it, you are displacing them, it's going to be indisability to the system.
It means we have a long way to go, because we've been talking about self-sufficiency over time. And the question is, if you see this kind of situation and the disruption in the food chain, we talk about the 2020 issue of COVID, and we do not have storage. We have so many things. We are not investing as much as we should. There's a whole lot we need to address. So this is just the tip of the iceberg. That's what he's saying.
Yes. You see, we need a cocktail of issues that needs to be approached massively. So if we say custom is one. Part of parastatals, so like if the Ministry of Agriculture wants to do anything at federal and states, now there are other parastatals that some documents must go through their table. There's a lot of bottlenecks. So we don't have a lot of parastatals cooperating with Ministry of Agri at federal and state.
If you could just hold the thought, we have our senior reporter Theophilus Elama standing by at the Lekki toll gate to bring us up to speed with developments there with regards to the protest, the hashtag End Bad Governance protest. Theophilus, what's the situation of things where you are?
All right, Veronica, the situation here is that it's very cool. Everybody is going about their normal businesses, but if you can see from behind me, you will see policemen here. They have been deployed since to come and maintain the peace. Now, this place is quite significant in the sense that this was where the NSAS protest of October 2020 happened. And so everyone will think that there will be a convergence here. But what we have seen right now is that no one has come out to protest so far. the detachment of policemen, officers here to keep the peace, like I said earlier. And everything is going on as it is. Of course, my cameraman is panning at this point. You will see that vehicles are going, everybody's going upon about their normal businesses. And but there's less traffic here, because of the fact that many people do not understand or do not know what's going to happen. There's uncertainty in the air, and so you see less traffic. Normally in this tollgate area going all the way to Lekki, Phase 1 and the likes, there's a lot of heavy traffic around this time because of the peak periods of people going to work. But from what we are seeing here, like you have seen, the road is quite free. Everyone is just being cautious of the situation and trying to understand what's happening. But for us right now, no protest so far has happened at Lekki Tollgate here.
Okay, so did you speak with the security personnel to know what their mindset is about this whole protest and engagement with protesters could be at the end of the day if any protesters or any protester comes there to say they want to protest?
Well, if you can hear me, the security operatives are just here to do their job. Now, they are not actually allowed to speak with civilians on this issue, on any security issues, but they are being friendly with the media. But I recall last night I was here trying to get some shots with my phone, and I was stopped, but not by the security agencies, not by the police. There were very few of them here. It was just by the security men in charge of the toll gates here. Normally, one person came to stop me from filming with my phone. But we are here doing our job. So far, journalists are here as well. No one has been stopped from doing their job. And the police officers are being cordial. And we believe that if anyone comes here to protest, as far as you are not violent, they will ensure they do all they can to keep the peace within the area and ensure that even if protesters come here, they will protest peacefully and leave.
Right. Okay, Theophilus, we'll keep tabs with you on developments coming out of Lekki Tollgate as they unfold. Thank you. So let's get back to our conversation. Before we went on to speak with our correspondent, reporter Theophilus, we're talking about the role of the subnationals, that's the state government and the federal government, at aggressively addressing this whole matter if we want to get the kinds of result we want to see in the sector.
Well, I think the federal government is not doing enough with putting pressure on the states.
Really?
The federal government is taking the pressure, but
instead of pushing
it back to them.
Really?
They give, the FEC allocation has increased. They're giving subsidies for cash. There were a lot of cash bailouts to states.
And they gave grains.
They gave grains. So if federal is giving so much and they are still taking the pressure for the states, I don't understand it. Federal should push it back. The states are owing CBN, intervention funds.
Really?
Yeah, so federal government should put pressure on them to say, you don't deliver. They should advise CBN to put pressure and begin to take back what they owe them from source on a monthly basis. As far as I'm concerned, the federal government is not doing enough to put pressure. If the federal government puts pressure, the way they are taking the pressure, the way they are doling out subsidies, interventions to states, then the state should deliver. They produce yams in the states, not at Abuja. Do you get? So everything the state, as far as I'm concerned, the federal government is, the way we call it, spoiling the state.
Sure.
Because the state need, especially, and I'll be very blunt, APC states need to step up their game. If the president is APC and it's a party thing, then step up your game. Show your loyalty to the people there. If PDP...
But this should be about governance. Basically.
No. So I'm going somewhere. PDP states should also step up to show that we want to take national. Labour states should show. Labour, PDP are not showing anything that they would have done if they were at the federal. So what I'm saying is, across board, federal is taking too much pressure for the states. They have given so much, and we need that accountability. The fertilizers are there, everything is there. So bottom line for me is federal needs a carrot and stick approach to the states. The states are the reasons why we are not food secure now.
Sure.
And I can say this anywhere. I have interacted, and we have a lot of networks, just like you have your reporters. We have reporters all out there. The states need to step up. They talk about, the states talk about, oh, we are doing 10,000 hectares. The job of the state is not to farm. The job of the state is not to protect a few. The job of the state is to ensure that the active ones are sustainable. Right. So we're more focusing on big players rather than both. We can't do without each other. But the ones that are currently producing, when they say, oh, we didn't get the fertilizers, all the state government, and to be fair also, the governors mean well, but they have not put in systems for feedbacks. One of the things I expect yesterday, one of the northern governors was talking about 64 trucks, trailers of fertilizer received by federal government. And the governor was saying, I was going around with 64 trailers. That's a lot of inefficiency. So bottom line is that create feedback channels. Put some phone numbers out that people can call if they don't get the fertilizer. All state government have state media. Right. They can go on the media to say, 5 trailers, 1 trailer is going to this local government, confirm, send photographs as we are receiving it. So bottom line, everybody goes there, people who are registered to know that we have this. So feedback mechanism is not in most of the states. It's just go and do it. Activity versus accomplishment, versus productivity. We're not seeing productivity. When we begin to see productivity, I've seen a particular Southwest governor passed buy like 300 tractors, and the tractors ended up in the neighboring states. We were using the tractors in the neighboring states.
Why? Because
the civil servants there will take money and push the tractors out. So that's why I'm still looking at what Niger will do eventually. I've seen it more than 3-4 times. Some of us have been, at food security conversation for a while.
Right.
And we see, so the governors may mean well also, but the people working with the governors end up messing these things up because there's no feedback mechanism.
So everybody now has a responsibility.
Yes.
Pressure.
Yes. Put pressure.
On be it at the state level, the state governors have to put
the local
pressure.
government. They are the ones that are closest to the people.
Who know the farmers?
Who knows the farmers? And just like what my colleague have said, I'm not seeing what the state governors are really doing, to be very honest with you. Especially in the Southwest. I'm expecting the Southwest governors to really support
They've had a conversation around food security, and they were going to ensure that the Southwest is food secure.
It's all about political statement. We are the one on the field. You are not on the field.
Right.
We know what is going on. If my governor in the Lagos is very serious about agriculture, I've been complaining since December that my farm is being taken over by the military. And nothing is being done. We are over 100 farmers that have been displaced. If those 100 farmers are able to produce, you know what that one could have done in the basket of food to the Lagos state. Then with this tariff that is being lifted to some food item, I'm expecting Lagos state government, with the big rice milling they have, they should apply for relief from the federal government for them to bring paddy.
Rice paddy.
Rice paddy. They have the biggest equipment in the whole of West Africa. If they can bring that rice paddy in tons, in vessels, the price of rice will come down in Lagos State. If you look at the population of Lagos State, we like it or not, it's close to 50 million. And to feed people of this nature, then a lot needs to be done in terms of agriculture. If they don't have land, they can do value sharing.
Right. And that would be a fine place to leave this conversation. So much has been said, and we believe that the relevant authorities have heard what you're saying loudly. We must thank you, African Farmer Mogaji, as well as MD CEO Bama Farms, Wale Oyekoya, for your time on the program. Gentlemen.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let me say this. Lagos State, through the commissioner, is actually up on the game, but can be improved.
Our time is up, but he said not enough is being done.
Yes.
We'll leave it there. All right, finally, we went to the streets to ask Nigerians this question, the tongue twister question.